Hello everyone, and welcome to the conclusion of the Blue Gender Retrospective. Having basically gone over all the main themes and characters that I've found in this series, I'm sure I've missed a few. I don't put it above myself to miss a few things here or there. I think it's time to just about wrap up this retrospective. And that, of course, means that we're going to make a conclusion video where I just kind of go over a few final thoughts on the series and make a few meandering comments that may or may not be related to it. Now to start, I want to thank the viewers for suggesting Blue Gender, as it was the first viewer suggestion that I've watched on this channel. The previous series that I've looked over, Samurai 7, Trigun, The Big O, Ergo Proxy, those were all series that I've personally watched beforehand and that I had heard of and I knew that I would like. Blue Gender, however, was the first one that I've watched on this channel that I had never heard of before and was suggested to me by several viewers actually, and I'm very grateful for discovering new things like this because the whole point of this channel is to look over more obscure and forgotten works, and by informing me of them, I also get to kind of undergo that learning and discovery process, which I just think is so neat when looking over bygone media. On the topic of Blue Gender itself, I'm not going to say that it was perfect, and it wasn't my favorite production, but I will say that it was a very good production, and it was one that impressed me most of the time, I'm gonna be honest. Its visceral feeling was something that especially stuck with me in a positive way. I appreciate that it was quite realistic and brutal at times, because not every story is gonna be the happiest, and not every character is perfect. And Blue Gender, I think, is a very good series for that reason. I think Blue Gender is a good series for the fact that it's not an idealized future, it's not an idealized cast. It's a very rugged world filled with very, very flawed people, and yet they somehow get by and they somehow overcome the struggles around them. Sure, the Earth kind of resets itself and they don't really have any part in that, and you could argue that the problem really fixes itself, but that doesn't change the fact that Yuji and Marlene and the rest of the cast, well, the ones that make it to the end, have survived up until this point. It doesn't diminish the human spirit within them that keeps them going and allows them to sort of sustain themselves over time. And I think that's one of the best things about Blue Gender, is that it really is a piece about both the strengths and weaknesses of humanity. It trumpets some very high ideals that humanity can get through a lot. However, a lot of the series doesn't shy away from the less desirable traits of humanity, whether it's Yuji's extreme emotional recklessness, or Marlene initially being extremely cold, or the selfish callousness of the High Council, or Tony's utter complete detachment from humanity. Blue Gender doesn't shy away from those things either, and in this way I feel like it's a really good, balanced portfolio of both the good and bad of humanity, kind of wrapped up into a late 90s, early 2000s anime about shooting giant bugs. It was a series that really stuck with me, and I think I will remember it, not just because of the giant bugs, but because of how everything feels. Now, sometimes everything doesn't feel that good in the series. There are some issues with it. Writing especially, I found. Several people have mentioned to me how they find the character of Yuji to be insufferable at times, and I'm not going to disagree with that. There are times where he's completely insufferable, or there are times where he just says something really stupid, and you're like, what, really, dude? Really? While I do think that kind of fits with a lot of the cast of the show being quite flawed, it does also reflect on some not so great writing. They seem to have written out the first half of the show pretty well. Yuji's development is very solid, Marlene's development is very gradual in that series. Everything goes very nice, smooth line throughout the first 14 or so episodes. And then once Yuji joins the Sleeper Brigade, everything kind of goes off the rails. And I don't know if that was intentional or if that does reflect on writing issues. I would understand if it is kind of both. Maybe they wanted to escalate things, but they only had 13 episodes to do it, and they kind of rushed things or left things out that were supposed to be there. Again, the series isn't perfect, and I do understand criticisms of it. I do understand that Yuji is not the best protagonist, in all honesty. There are times where you're just kind of going, come on, Yuji, come on, figure this out. Get off the screen, let Marlene take over or something. I completely understand that. However, for me at least, that wasn't a deal breaker. I understand that that might be a deal breaker for someone that really doesn't like his character, and again, I can understand that, seeing how it's written sometimes. And I understand if this might not be the show for you, but I personally enjoyed it quite a bit. And I did think it was very interesting simply because of how much of sort of a time capsule it is. Just looking at it, going through, comparing the thumbnails from it to, say, the thumbnails for any of the Ergo Proxy videos. Now, when I make a thumbnail for this channel, it's literally just a screenshot of something from the video. We have 90s, early 2000s animation compared to Ergo Proxy 2006. Very high definition, very well shaded, some CGI in there as well. And just comparing the two is just stunning to see the technological process made in such a short amount of time. Now, I love the 90s animation style. I'm not complaining about that. And I think Ergo Proxy looks gorgeous too. It's just seeing the rapid evolution of styling and aesthetic here it just really drives home, to me at least, how much of a time capsule Blue Gender is, and that's probably one of the reasons I thought it was really enjoyable too. When I say time capsule, like in the first video of the series, Blue Gender is a really good kind of example of what you were kind of getting out of the industry in the late 90s, early 2000s period. It's 90s animated. It looks a lot more visceral than the cleaner stuff that came out later. Again, cleaner is not a derogatory or positive term here. It's just a neutral term for the sake. I like both looks, but that 90s look, nothing can really compare to it. Blue Gender being a time capsule is just, it's animated in a 90s way. It has some of the weird writing and productions that you see in a lot of the lower to mid-budget animes of the time. Sometimes weird character development, weird writing, weird tonal decisions here or there. Its soundtrack has, at least from what I could tell, slight house influences. There are a few songs which wouldn't sound out of place in a 90s house club or something. And the thing that sticks out the most to me especially was the dubbing of the opening theme. I understand why they don't do this anymore. I understand why people may or may not like it, but it's just something that you don't see anymore, and I think that's why it sticks out to me so much. It's just so cool. It's like an old Polaroid camera, something that you know what it is, you know what it does, and there are things around that could do the same thing but a lot more efficient now, or in a different way as easily. But the old thing is just so fascinating because why is it the way it is? Why are we doing this today? It's just so fascinating to me. And I think Blue Gender is really something that fascinates me for both the story itself, of course. I will say that it is a good story. It's pretty coherent. I especially like the character of Marlene. I feel like she's probably the best written character of the series. Although I do also like the series for the kind of more meta, more production level things, which I find very interesting. It's a time capsule. It's the kind of thing that you definitely could see being made at the time, but you wouldn't see it being made today simply because of the difference in production styles and production decisions, maybe some writing decisions too. It really is just an obscure anime memory. The kind of thing that I create this channel to look at, and that's probably why it fascinates me, just finding out stuff like this that exists and sharing it with the wider world. With my final thoughts on the series just put out there, I would just like to make a thankful gesture to everyone that views these and has subscribed to the channel. I understand that I kind of just ramble into a microphone and then clip random, fitting clips from said show together to the OST of the series. I understand that I don't have the highest production value, and honestly, I'm not a qualified speaker. I'm not a doctor, okay? I'm not an expert in anything really, but I do appreciate the people that take the time to actually listen to this and just appreciate the little things that I'm doing. I do like making these videos. It keeps me busy. Everyone needs a hobby. So I do appreciate all those who view the series, and I'm especially appreciative again of suggestions, because I never would have watched Blue Gender if it wasn't suggested to me by a viewer. So just a friendly reminder, suggestions for series are welcome, and always remember to vote in the next poll, which is already up, and it looks like Escaflowne is running away with things as of now. It has about 53% of the votes. Of course, I'm not going to start watching the next series till the poll is done. I'm not going to consider that done for probably at least a week or so after this video goes up. So again, just make sure to vote. But it looks like Escaflowne's really running away with things. Anyways, thank you if you've made it to the end of the video, and I'll see ya in our next discussion of some great, obscure anime memory.